This is a video of my autographed baseball collection. I collect Hall of Fame balls, the Hall of Fame inscription, MVP award, Cy Young award, World Series MVP award, All-Star Game MVP award, and then just different Hall of Famers with the other inscriptions. I have 163 Hall of Fame member signatures on baseballs. Some of them are team signed baseballs or multi Hall of Fame balls for the older guys anyway. And then I have, I believe, 116 Hall of Fame inscribed balls. I have every MVP award winner except a few before World War II, and with the inscription on most of them, on 95% of them. I have every Cy Young Award winner from 1956 up until 2015 except Jake Arrieta and Zach Greinke, and they all have the inscription. And I have every World Series MVP award winner, and I'm currently working on the All-Star Game MVP, so I'll just get started. If you guys can sit through all this, you won't be disappointed. First is a Tris Speaker signed ball. That's also got a fake George Sisler signature on it. It says from Pat Collins, 1921. So whoever wrote that, signed that, and killed the value on it, really. Next is a All-Star Game ball with Nellie Fox on it, and also Elston Howard. And then next is a Hall of Fame multi-signed ball with Cy Young there, and it's kind of faded out. The Ted Williams is a stamp. There's Tris Speaker, Harry Hooper, Frankie Frisch, and Casey Stengel, Paul Waner, Carl Hubble, Dazzy Vance. Over here is Phil Rizzuto, Mickey Cochran, Frank Home Run Baker, Ray Schalk. And here's Ted Williams, and Jimmy Fox is a clubhouse signature. And on this panel is Gabby Hartnett. I can't remember that one in the middle, but then there's Ty Cobb there. And then moving on is a Pirates team sign ball with Roberto Clemente. I can't remember the year. Then a 1940 Detroit Tigers ball with Hank Greenberg on the sweet spot. Next is a ball signed by Satchel Paige and George Sisler. And then I believe that's a 1953 Brooklyn Dodgers ball with Roy Campanella there. Jackie Robinson signature on this one is a clubhouse. Next is a 1930s Pirates ball with Honus Wagner, and Marky Vaughn there. And then on this panel is Lloyd Wainer. And next is a multi-signed Hall of Fame ball with Walter Johnson. And on this sweet spot, there's a clubhouse signature of Babe Ruth on top, and then an actual signature of Babe Ruth on bottom. Next is a 1934 Yankees ball, I believe, with Babe Ruth on the sweet spot. And then on this panel is Lou Gehrig. And on this panel here was manager Joe McCarthy. Next is a Hall of Fame multi-signed ball with Ty Cobb and Green, and then Frankie Frisch to the left. Al Simmons below Cobb. Then on the sweet spot is Joe DiMaggio, Jimmy Fox, On this panel is Ray Schalk, Gabby Hartnett, Paul Wainer, Bill Terry, Mickey Cochran, and I can't read that bottom one. And on this panel is a clubhouse signature of Cy Young, Frank Baker, a clubhouse signature of Babe Ruth, Tris Speaker. And here is Ted Lyons, Ed Walsh, Dazzy Vance, Lefty Grove, and then another clubhouse signature of Cy Young. And I think that's it for that ball. And next is I think that's a 1938 St. Louis Browns ball with Rogers Hornsby. And then a 1934 St. Louis Cardinals Gas House Gang ball with Dizzy Dean. And then on this panel is Dazzy Vance and Leo DeRocher. And next is a 1931 Philadelphia A's ball with Jimmy Fox. Mickey Cochran, Lefty Grove, and on this panel is Al Simmons. Next is a 1931 New York Yankees reunion ball. It's signed by a lot of different Hall of Famers. The best ones on it is Cy Young there, and Babe Ruth is right underneath Cy Young. Then there's Charlie Gehringer on there. On the sweet spot, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he was an MVP award winner. Roger Peckinpah. And then here is Stanley Kovaleski, Ray Schalk, Bob Musial, Mickey Cochran, Earl Combs, Jimmy Fox, Ed Walsh, here is there's Tris Speaker, Red Wolf, Lefty Gomez, and there's a lot of other Hall of Famers on there too. I just can't remember who was all on there. Oh, and Ty Cobb's on this one too. Right there, he signed it really small. And then on the sweet spot is George Sisler. I think Chief Bender's on this ball too somewhere. But Harry Hooper's on there, right there. And next is a 1947 Brooklyn Dodgers ball, signed by Jackie Robinson his first year. And then Gil Hodges. The Campanella is a clubhouse signature on this one. Then next, I don't remember what kind of ball this was, but it's got Mel Ott on the sweet spot there. And next is a multi-Hall of Fame ball with Pie Traynor, Satchel Paige is there, Frankie Frisch, and there's others, but not as good as what the other balls are. There's Mrs. Babe Ruth there and Rube Marquard. And then over on this ball is Joe Medwick. He won an MVP award. Lou Boudreau, Earl Combs, Charlie Gehringer, Frankie Frisch, Jesse Haynes, Stanley Kovaleski, Wade Hoyt, Buck Leonard, Lefty Grove, Rube Marquard, Lloyd Wainer, Joe Cronin, Bob Feller, and Jesse Haynes again, Casey Stengel, Lefty Gomez, Early Wynn, Warren Giles, and Chick Hafey. And now I'll move on to my Hall of Fame inscribed balls. Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Johnny Bench, Ernie Banks, Frank Robinson, Yogi Berra, Carl Yastrzemski, George Brett, Eddie Matthews, Tony Gwynn, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken Jr., Mike Schmidt, Ricky Henderson, Lou Brock, Rod Carew, Harmon Killebrew, Willie McCovey, Brooks Robinson, Joe Morgan, Frank Thomas, Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Reggie Jackson, Wade Boggs, Willie Stargell, Al Kaline, Andre Dawson, Carlton Fisk, Ozzie Smith, Dave Winfield, Kirby Puckett, Duke Snyder, Barry Larkin, Charlie Gehringer, Billy Williams, Ryan Sandberg, Gary Carter, Hoyt Wilhelm, Bill Mazeroski, Ron Santo, Red Schoendienst, Ed Roush, Lefty Gomez, Orlando Cepeda, Phil Rizzuto, Joe Sewell, Larry Doby, George Kell, Bobby Doerr, Sparky Anderson, Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, Bobby Cox, Whitey Herzog, Tommy Lasorda, Bob Gibson, Greg Maddux, Sandy Koufax, Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Tom Seaver, Jim Palmer, Bob Feller, Don Drysdale, Pedro Martinez, Whitey Ford, Steve Carlton, John Smoltz, Dennis Eckersley, Tom Glavine, Warren Spahn, Raleigh Fingers, Carl Hubble, Robin Roberts, Juan Marichal, Catfish Hunter, Early Wynn, Fergie Jenkins, Phil Necro, Gaylord Perry, Bruce Suter, Burt Blyleven, Goose Gossage, Don Sutton, Hal Newhouser, Billy Herman, Louis Aparicio, Craig Biggio, Ralph Kiner, Bob Lemon, Roberto Alomar, Lou Boudreau, Tony Perez, Luke Appling, Bill Dickey, Jim Rice, Bill Terry, Rick Farrell, Jim Bunning, Richie Ashburn, Johnny Mize, Pee Wee Reese, Enos Slaughter, Leon Day, Cool Papa Bell, Ray Dandridge, Buck Leonard, Judy Johnson, Monty Irvin, Al Lopez, Earl Weaver, Dick Williams, Leo DeRocher, Lee McPhail, Pat Gillick, Jocko Conlon, Al Barlick, Doug Harvey, Happy Chandler, Bowie Kuhn, and then Ford Frick Award winner Jack Buck, the Hall of Fame inscription. Now I'm going to move into my MVP Cy Young Award collection. If there's any gaps between the years, it's because they won multiple or want a stat ball somewhere else in the collection, or for the older Hall of Fame guys and older MVP award guys, they're on multi-sign balls. So I'm going to do the MVP and Cy Young awards. Charlie Gehringer, Dolph Keneally, Stan Musial, Marty Marion, Hal Newhouser, Phil Cavaretta, Lou Boudreau, Phil Rizzuto, Hank Sauer, Bobby Shantz, Al Rosen, Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle. Don Newcomb is the first Cy Young Award winner. He also won the MVP that year. Warren Spahn, Hank Aaron. 1957, the Braves won the Cy Young Award, the MVP award, and the World Series MVP award. And then 58 was Bob Turley. Ernie Banks, Early Wynn, Vern Law, Dick Groat, Whitey Ford, Frank Robinson, Don Drysdale. That was the hardest Cy Young Award ball to find. Maury Wills, Sandy Koufax, Dean Chance, Brooks Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Zoilo Versalis, Jim Lonberg, Carl Yastrzemski, Mike McCormick, Orlando Cepeda, Bob Gibson, Denny McClain, Mike Queller, Denny McClain, Harmon Killebrew, Tom Seaver, Willie McCovey, Boog Powell, Jim Perry, Bob Gibson, Johnny Bench, Vida Blue, Fergie Jenkins, Joe Torre, Gaylord Perry, Dick Allen, Steve Carlton, Reggie Jackson, Pete Rose, Catfish Hunter, Jeff Burrows, Mike Marshall, Steve Garvey, Fred Lynn, Jim Palmer, Joe Morgan, Randy Jones, Sparky Lyle, Rod Carew, George Foster, Ron Guidry, Jim Rice, Dave Parker, Mike Flanagan, Don Baylor, Bruce Sutter, Willie Stargell, Keith Hernandez, Steve Stone, George Brett, Mike Schmidt, Raleigh Fingers, Fernando Valenzuela, Pete Vukovich, Robin Yount, Dale Murphy, Lamar Hoyt, Cal Ripken Jr., John Denny, Willie Hernandez, Rick Sutcliffe, Ryan Sandberg, Brett Saberhagen, Don Mattingly, Doc Gooden, Willie McGee, Roger Clemens, Mike Scott, George Bell, Steve Bedrosian, Andre Dawson, Frank Viola, Jose Canseco, Oral Hershiser, Kirk Gibson, Mark Davis, Kevin Mitchell, Bob Welch, Ricky Henderson, Doug Drabeck, Barry Bonds, got to find one with the years, and also 7-time MVP instead of 5. Tom Glavine, Terry Pendleton, Dennis Eckersley, Greg Maddux, he won at 92 through 95, Jack McDowell, Frank Thomas, David Cone, Jeff Bagwell, Mo Vaughn, it's 95, Barry Larkin, Pat Hinkin, Juan Gonzalez, John Smoltz, Ken Caminiti, Ken Griffey Jr., Larry Walker, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Yvonne Rodriguez, Chipper Jones, Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Jason Giambi, Jeff Kent, Ichiro Suzuki, Barry Zito, Miguel Tejada, Roy Halladay, Alex Rodriguez, Eric Gagne, Johan Santana, Vladimir Guerrero, Bartolo Colon, Chris Carpenter, Albert Pujols, Justin Morneau, Brandon Webb, Ryan Howard, CC Sabathia, Jake Peavy, Jimmy Rollins, Cliff Lee, Dustin Pedroia, Tim Lincecum, Joe Mauer, Felix Hernandez, Roy Halladay, Josh Hamilton, Joey Votto, Justin Verlander, Clayton Kershaw, Ryan Braun, David Price, R.A. Dickey, Buster Posey, Miguel Cabrera, Max Scherzer, Andrew McCutchen, Corey Kluber, Mike Trout, Clayton Kershaw, Dallas Keuchel, Whitey Ford, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, Bob Gibson Statball, Hank Aaron. And this is my Kings of Baseball collection. Hit King, Pete Rose, Home Run King, Hank Aaron, Stolen Bases King, Ricky Henderson, and most consecutive games played, Cal Ripken Jr., and most strikeouts, Nolan Ryan. I need to add a Mariano Rivera saves inscribed ball, so if anybody has one, hit me up for that. The next is a Pete Rose, Sorry I Bet on Baseball. You can't not acknowledge what he did for the game, and in the game holds more records than anybody, so you gotta have him in your collection somehow. And next is Ichiro, the 262 10304 inscription for the most hits in a single season, and then Barry Bonds with 73 home runs, 10701. I know he cheated, but still a cool ball anyway. And next is my All-Star Game MVP Award winners. It's my All-Star Game MVP Award collection. I don't have all of them, but I'm working on it slowly. Some of the guys are dead. Gary Carter's dead. Kirby Puckett's dead. So they're tough, but anyways, got Dave Parker, Ken Griffey Sr., Dave Concepcion, Fred Lynn, Roger Clemens, Tim Raines, Bo Jackson, Julio Franco, Cal Ripken Jr., Jeff Conine, Mike Piazza, Sandy Alomar Jr., Roberto Alomar, Pedro Martinez, Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken Jr., Garrett Anderson, Michael Young, Ichiro, J.D. Drew, Carl Crawford, Brian McCann, Prince Fielder, Melky Cabrera, Mariano Rivera, Mike Trout, and Mike Trout. And next is my World Series MVP collection. This is my World Series MVP collection. The award was formerly given out in 1955. So Johnny Padres, Don Larson, Lou Burdett, Bob Turley, Larry Sherry, Bobby Richardson, the only World Series MVP to win the award and lose the World Series, Whitey Ford, Ralph Terry, Sandy Koufax. Have not ever seen one with the years inscribed, so Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax again. He was 63 and 66, or not 66, 65. Frank Robinson, 66. Mickey Lolich, Don Clendenin, Brooks Robinson, Gene Tennis, Reggie Jackson, Raleigh Fingers. 1971 World Series MVP was Roberto Clemente. That's why he's not in there. Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Bucky Dent, Willie Stargell, Mike Schmidt, Ron Say, Pedro Guerrero, Steve Yeager, Darrell Porter, Rick Dempsey, Alan Trammell, Brett Saberhagen, Ray Knight, Frank Viola, Oral Hershiser, Dave Stewart, Jose Rijo, Jack Morris, Pat Borders, Paul Molitor. The 94 World Series was canceled due to strike. Tom Glavine, John Wetland, Levon Hernandez, Scott Brocious, Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling. Every time I've tried, he's rejected that inscription. Don't know why, but Troy Glaus, Josh Beckett, need to find one with the inscription. Manny Ramirez, Jermaine Dye, David Eckstein, Mike Lowell, Cole Hamels, Hideki Matsui, Edgar Renteria, David Freese, Pablo Sandoval, David Ortiz, Madison Bumgarner, and Salvador Perez. Now I've got some of my best balls to show, and then some other Hall of Fame World Series balls. This is one of my Babe Ruth setups. I got the 12-inch McFarland, then a signed cut, and then my Babe Ruth ball. And then it's not single signed, or else it'd be worth twice as much what it is worth. It's got a Joe DiMaggio signature there, but you can barely even see it, so I consider it single signed. It's one of my favorite balls in my collection. The next is another Babe Ruth ball, and there's another cut of Babe Ruth. This is actually a 1927 New York Yankees ball with Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Bob Musial there underneath the logo, Herb Pinnock, Combs. Wait Hoyt is underneath him. And then Tony Lazzari is right there. It's kind of faint. Then Mark Koenig, I believe that's his name, is on there too. This is it features every member of Murderers Row, the Yankees lineup 1 through 6. It's also got Miller Huggins' signature on there, but it is Clubhouse. And next is one of my favorite baseballs in my collection, a single sign Roger Maris baseball. And then a Roberto Clemente signed baseball. It's not single signed either. It's actually got one signature on the other end, Bob Friend. And then next is a Willie Mays stat ball with home runs, Hall of Fame, MVP, hits, just anything you can pretty much imagine that he did in his career. And then next is the best Joe DiMaggio baseball out there. It's actually got 5 inscriptions. It was actually graded, but the encapsulation broke, so I'm in the process of getting that fixed. But it's got 56 and 41, Hall of Fame 55, 361 home runs, his MVP inscription 39, 41, 47, and then 325 career batting average. This was graded a 10 of 10 from Beckett Grading Services. And next is the last, well, not the last, but some World Series balls from the World Series moments. This is my other Willie Mays stat ball. It doesn't have quite as many inscriptions, but it is in ballpoint pen with home runs, Hall of Fame, Rookie of the Year, and MVP. And then Mickey Mantle, number 7, and Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams. And this is another World Series case, kind of. There's a few MVPs in it. Bill Buckner and Mookie Wilson from the 86 World Series. And then Spud Chandler, he was an MVP in, I think, the 40s. And this is a 1972 Yankees ball with Thurman Munson. I got to find a single signed of him someday. They're pretty pricey though. So I use this for a filler for my MVP collection. And next is a single sign Ken Boyer. He was a 64 NL MVP. And then the rest are just World Series stuff. Derek Jeter, Carlton Fisk, Joe Carter, Bill Mazeroski, Luis Gonzalez, Reggie Jackson, Enos Slaughter, Bobby Thompson and Ralph Branca, Chris Chambliss, Yogi Berra and Don Larson, and Aaron Boone. And then I have one more set to show. These are some extra balls that I have listed on eBay, but I still consider them part of my collection. Stan Musial, Hall of Fame, same again, same without the nickname, same without the nickname. Stan Musial with number 6 inscribed. That's a tough one to find. An 09 All-Star Game ball signed by Stan Musial. Mickey Mantle Hall of Fame. Then Mickey Mantle on a Joe Cronin ball from the era that he played in. This is a Cardinals Hall of Fame ball. It's signed by Musial, Gibson, Brock, Shane Dienst, and Enos Slaughter. Got to add the other guys on there. And Hank Aaron, Kurt Flood, Marvin Miller, Hank Aaron, Catfish Hunter, Catfish Hunter, Catfish Hunter, and Catfish Hunter. This Miguel Cabrera game used ball from the night that he clinched the Triple Crown in 2012 with all the inscriptions. Same here, just not as many inscriptions. This 2000 World Series ball signed by Piazza and Clemens. In Game 2, they had that kind of, not a brawl, but they got into it then. So another Hank Aaron, Mariano Rivera, Ron Blumberg with the first designated hitter inscription, Tommy John, Phil Rizzuto, and Hank Aaron. So that's my collection. I don't know if I can't remember if I mentioned it before, but all the balls are authenticated by PSA, JSA, Steiner, MLB Hologram, TriStar, Upper Deck, anything like that. But hope you guys enjoyed watching it. It took me a long time to actually put it all together, so thanks for watching.